because it really makes a difference. I encourage you attend city council meetings and come and speak. And we're voting on especially things like zoning changes, come and speak. It makes a difference. But what I want to do, and I'm Dave Donelson, I represent District 1. Thank you for letting me represent you. Tonight we're going to have Crime Prevention Officer Corrado. And your first name?
Brian.
Brian. It's Brian Corrado. And some of you may have known CPO, or Crime Prevention Officer Ossick. He used to work out of the Falcon Division, but we have a new one, and it's Brian Corrado. So I thought this was a good opportunity for him to kind of get in front of you, answer some questions, give you a little information. So we'll do that for the first half hour, and then there's a remaining hour. I'll say a few words, and then really what I want to do is kind of have a conversation or answer your questions. Okay? With that, I'll also recognize we have Deputy Chief Dave Edmondson in the back right there, and also Christian Nelson from Colorado Springs Utilities right there also. Oh, and we also have Chuck Borman, who needs no introduction. Good to see you, Chuck. He's here too. So again, thank you for all of you that are here tonight. Brian, if you want to come on up, I'm going to step to the side, let Brian speak. And this is your opportunity to get some information about, hey, there's a homeless camp, who I report that to, or what are we doing about that from his perspective. Speeding, things like that. Those public safety or really crime, law enforcement questions that you have. Who do I call about that, or what's being done? I think he'll have good information for us. So with that, and I believe Brian's taking time out of his, really from his home life. Is that right? You're off duty now?
No.
Okay. I'm on duty. But that's why we're going to let him go the first half hour so that he can get out of here. Either go back to work or go see his family.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm Brian Corrado. I've been a cop here with CSPD for 17 years. Moved here 20 years ago, started a family, never left. And I've been, I was in patrol for the first 5 years, moved on as a school resource officer, mostly in D11. Another 3.5, 4 years. Been a detective for the last 7 years. Emphasis with retail crime and organized retail crime specifically. And then just the past month, I stepped into Chris Ossick's shoes over at the Falcon Division. I assume you all know that you all live in the Falcon Division. Is that accurate? You know where that is? Okay, good.
Sure. Could you kind of show them the boundaries of the Falcon Division if you can?
So this blue area, most of the blue area reaches around to the north, up towards Northgate. And so basically, if you divide the city in half down Union, we're north of Fillmore, all the way up into the Northgate area, where it borders the Air Force Academy. Is that clear?
And I think this would be interesting. Can you point out the other divisions kind
of
as part of the city?
I'm so sorry.
As part as that.
So if we're northwest, that's Falcon, southwest is Gold Hill, and southeast is Sand Creek, and the northeast is Stetson Hills. So the 4 divisions are about 2,000 roadway miles. In Falcon, I think we have 200 roadway miles, and about 150, 160,000 people just in Falcon Division. So you multiply that by 4, you get an idea of how many residents, roadway miles we have in the rest of the city. And that's all patrolled by our own cops or at any time. So, kind of specific questions can I answer for you? Sir.
See, my name is John Kirschen. I'm District 1, and I live off of Lemonwood Drive. And I was just wondering about homeless people. Last year, right behind Lemonwood Drive is an open space. It's an open space that borders on that park that's down there.
No, well.
You know, well, okay. So anyway, there was some homeless people that set up camp behind our house. And so anyway, I just went over to Falcon Division and asked somebody there, how do I report that? And they suggested, they gave me the telephone number, the non-emergency telephone number for the police department. And I did that. the next morning I called there, I called there outside of, out, within business hours, I guess. Normal business hours, so it wasn't an emergency, it wasn't a panic.
Right.
It was just somebody setting up a camp, and I didn't think that was, and I did check the sign on Arundel Park, and Arundel Park has got a sign there, it's clearly marked as, not being, available for camping or anything like that. So anyway, I figured we were clean there. So anyway, I just went over there to, Falcon Division and asked how to report that thing, and so I called and reported it to, and the person that I talked to on the phone said they were going to report it to this homeless team.
Right.
The hot team.
Yes, the homeless outreach team is managed by a supervisor, Sergeant Polly Cheney, in the department for quite a while. The best way to report that for a lot of those kind of quality of life complaints is GoCOS. It's now a website that, and actually an app, it's a portal to make those kinds of complaints in the city.
And I did that too.
Perfect, yes, you did everything right.
Okay,
Because you're
now,
right, that ordinance is no
The question that I have, that I do not have an answer to, is what kind of feedback should the homeowner get? Now, I guess I was in large corporations for long enough to understand there's all kinds of privacy rules and all kinds of crap like that
Sure,
that
right.
everybody has to abide by. But what kind of feedback should I expect from the hot team?
Did you get any feedback though?
I got nothing.
How long ago was this?
Oh, it was last summer.
Okay. Normally, if your information is provided to the hot team, I actually had a meeting with Sergeant Cheney just this week on a different, similar topic, not too far away. And normally, if he's aware of the issue, that your information comes directly to him, then he will get back with you.
Okay.
I can't say what happened in that instance. If you go to the GoCOS app, I'm not sure what that looks like on the back end. But I know if you make a phone call as a citizen, and you ask to be contacted by anybody responding, you'll know that's what happens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but last year I couldn't, and I'm not sure what happened in that case. But I'm through the area, and you're right.
I did not ask for feedback.
Okay,
I know that.
okay. And that may be as simple as whitening or anything.
Okay. So it kind of is on me a little bit because I didn't ask for feedback. That might have been the case. Or it could have been the case that it just got dropped somehow.
Did you see a change?
No, well, they left a couple weeks later,
Okay.
but it just got cold too, so.
Right, so,
I don't know whether or not what I did from a phone call standpoint did anything or not, but they left.
it's definitely plausible. And so Sergeant Cheney's team, they have 6 officers that do them regularly. That's their only job. So they have a queue of calls like yours to tackle. So it could take a week, 2, maybe longer. It could be next day, I have no idea.
Okay.
So I know it goes into a queue, and then they tackle those one at a time.
Okay. Well, they left, and I don't know why.
Well, I do, it's because I took pictures of them all the time. They were smoking and doing a lot of stuff that you shouldn't be doing in a neighborhood park, and they saw me taking the pictures, and I'm sure they expected this hot team out any minute.
So you took ownership. I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah, I had plenty of pictures, and
Yeah.
smoking, and in a city park, and
Yeah, that GoCOS is probably the best way to do that right now. But if it's something that's, I would say if it's something that's more emergent, they're doing something that you see as criminal, as opposed to just camping out in a city park, which is also something you can cite them for. But something advanced like that, then having maybe a phone call, but a little more. Is that it, sir? You're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Thanks, appreciate it. There was another one out there, and I didn't see where it came from. There was 2 hands, that's all I remember. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
You said you're a detective for retail?
I was.
You what? Okay, so what is your role again now? I'm sorry.
So now the crime prevention, did I not say that? When I first walked in?
You did, but maybe you should explain. what
Sure, I'm
that
sorry.
is.
Let's start with that, go back up a few minutes. So crime prevention officer is what I do now. There are 4 of us in the city. in our roles, kind of, we manage the neighborhood watch program, number one. Number two, we respond to some of the issues that you just talked about on a case-by-case basis. We also provide a number of presentations on things like active shooter, verbal de-escalation, personal safety, things like that. We do that as a full-day thing. Like I said, there are only 4 of us in the whole city doing that. And thanks for reminding me, there's a bunch of literature at the back table where you signed in from, and all of that pertains to what these 4 officers do. And my business card is back there as well. I was going to say that from the very end, but I'll say it now. So take something with you if you'd like, but my business cards are back there as well, so if you have something that you don't want to talk about here tonight, here's your output. Go ahead.
Can you answer how many current detectives there are for crimes, whether they be residential, for, people that are getting in their houses or garages broken into?
Sure.
They'll come through the car and break in the car, get the garage opener, open up through the garage, and then they come into the house.
So I'll tell you, there are 4, I guess, field investigative units, to put it like that. They're all part of VNI right now. Those 4, there are...
What is VNI?
Sorry. So Metro VNI is basically the Vice Narcotics Investigations Unit, right? What these 4 units do, one is assigned to persons crimes, so like assaults, not homicides, just assaults. They're based out of Sand Creek. The one in the northeast part, Stetson Hills, they're assigned to things like burglaries. And then the one in the southwest part of town is more like the simple thefts, criminal mischief, things like that. And then the one at Falcon is assigned to the retail crime, pawn, and metal theft. It varies based on time of year, occupancy, or vacancies, that kind of stuff, but they're about 4 or 5 per unit.
Yeah. Is there a way to find out how we would find out what's the response time, or like, if, say this happened to someone, and what's the time as far as this person may have gotten caught, or they've caught him on 6 other homes that they burglarized?
Right.
Is there any way to track that? I mean, because obviously that sounds like a small number for detectives throughout the whole city.
For sure.
And I mean, my husband used to be a detective for CSPD for 34 years.
Oh, wow.
So he did crime and robbery and homicide when he started.
Okay.
So I know their caseloads are huge, because I've heard many stories. I've heard it all. So I know they're overloaded. So, and they probably have less now than they did back then.
So by statute, we're required to contact victims, especially burglaries right now, that's victims' crime. So we're required to contact them when there's resolution in the case, or if there's no resolution in the case, your case is inactive,
Right.
which means we haven't solved it, but, inactive or not working yet, open, we haven't solved it, or cleared by arrest, we filed with the DA's office, whatever. We're required to make that kind of notification. And your point is correctly on the spot. Those 4 or 5 detectives, they're working hopefully pattern crimes, that's their emphasis, because the methodology is we're trying to catch not the low-hanging fruit, but the people that are actually creating problems for the entire city.
Yeah.
So their caseloads are right now more geared towards those criminals as opposed to the one-time or two-time shoplifters, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So it could be some time, and if it isn't assigned, I mean, you will get a notification one or the other.
Right.
It just could be some time before that actually happens.
Okay.
That's based on caseload, for sure. What else? Who's your husband? I got to ask now.
Bill Tinkle. So you probably came on probably not 2009, 2010 is when he retired.
Okay, so I came on in 07, so we probably had a couple years ago. If I was a
Yeah.
midnight patrol cop, I didn't see a lot of people.
Yeah, he was out at CNP.
Or my family, for that matter.
He's a crazy basketball player.
He's a crazy basketball player.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, the others are retiring, so the youngers come in and, they're like, who?
You see my height, I don't play basketball. Right?
Yeah.
So I didn't cross basketball, sorry.
Right.
Somebody else raise your hand, yes ma'am.
I wonder, something that for me is sort of a nuisance item nowadays is when I go someplace out in public and am smelling marijuana and know that people are smoking, using. I mean, I find that a violation, because it's something that I, totally am against. But, is there anything that we can do, because I know it's just so prevalent.
So you're not supposed to smoke in the outdoors. personal property inside your home, that's on them, right? And I got no problem with that. Outdoors in public especially, right, that's a different discussion. If you've driven by any parts of town, sometimes you catch them just by driving by. The aroma itself isn't necessarily something that's criminal, it's where they're doing it. So if they're out in the open smoking, that's a violation, that's something we can look at. That Go COS, again, might be a good way to report that, because it's, I mean, to be honest with you, it's the grand totem pole, it's down here. How soon we can get there to investigate it, right, that could be a discussion. That'd be a problem for us as well.
But again, maybe if there's a pattern that.
So that's what I was gonna get to, thank you. So if you're seeing a pattern of, what you think is a pattern of use that is criminal, then that would be a time to make a report. You can do that online. You can make a report online, again, through Go COS. So Go COS kind of goes in two different directions. One is for you to actually go do online reporting through Go COS, and that's report a criminal incident to CSPD, or it's a complaint, if you will, for potholes or anything else you might have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Another question, and maybe it's code enforcement, I'm not sure. You know, like my neighbors have a bunch of extra cars around all the time.
Yep.
And two of them have been parked on the opposite side of their backyard. Now, for the past several months, there's been one parked like in the middle of the backyard, but facing my back fence. And, you know, is there anything that says they can't have a car back there?
Yes, I'm a little fuzzy on what the backyard stuff is, but if it's on a city street, there's a code enforcement violation for that. And once again, my answer is going to be Go COS, because they'll take those code enforcement violations, they'll take those. So if you're not sure what it is, you know, put it out there and see if they can do that. That's what I would do. There are a couple of others I keep forgetting what they were, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you and your other fellow officers for keeping Colorado Springs safe. I greatly appreciate what you guys do to keep us safe and secure in our homes and about our community. I do want to tout Go COS. I've used it a number of times to report traffic sign missing that got stolen, or traffic signal being inoperable, people camping in drainage areas and affecting the waterway and stuff like that. And I found it to be people to be very responsive.
Yeah, I've used it myself. I mean, for the same kind of stuff in my neighborhood, for potholes in my neighborhood. So I know.
Question I have, and I'm an interloper, I'm actually in District 6, so I'm here today. Kick me out. Barnes and Peterson, during the summer months, late at night, hearing racing, you know, people drag racing down the Peterson and along the farm. You know, as soon as you hear it, they're gone.
Right.
A few seconds later. Probably not much you can do
Pretty
about it,
right?
other than just register that you hear from time to time.
Yeah, so, and I've had a similar issue in the Paragon area just recently, and the way we can address that is by putting officers out there. Sometimes we have officers available to patrol that area exclusively for those reasons. We have deployments sometimes that do that. It just kind of depends on the time of year and budget, to be honest with you. And that's really the best way for us to tackle that, is to put officers out there and lay them wage, right?
Have visibility.
Or visibility is slowing down, right? That's really the best thing we can do right now. We've done things like speed surveys, or put the traffic trailers out there and things like that. Those guys really don't care about traffic trailers.
They probably like it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, yeah, they collect them for, right, yeah, free charge. The problem is they're racers, and I don't know where you grew up, but where I grew up, running from the cops, with a fast car was kind of a cool thing to do, so you gotta be careful how you do that, right? So yeah, it's a problem all over the city, I agree with you. Yes, sir. To your problem with your area specifically, do you know MJ Thompson? So he would be the person I would refer you to for specifically that part of town. And when we're done here, I can give you information if you like.
I'm a hop, skip, and a jump away. I have no excuse for not going down.
That's okay. One of the things I have back there has a barcode on there. I'm sorry, a QR code. If you scan that QR code, it'll bring us right to our crime prevention website, and then you can see where in town you are and who your CPO is. MJ Thompson's your guy.
Right.
For sure. Yes, ma'am.
I apologize for being late. I first heard about this at 5 to 5 today. I haven't heard about it, but I have major issues and questions and major concerns about the negative impact that the Parks Department is doing with the Lodge Master Plan. Crime is one thing. I've tried to contact you, and then I've emailed you at Sandy Sutter in Alpine Glen area, and there are a lot of neighbors who are up in arms, and we don't have time in our lives to babysit and run and chase down and find out what the Parks Department is hiding in their publicized plan, because there's obviously more things they're planning that they're not, are the ones that are going to be expanding. So one of the things as far as crime lines for you, my question is, they're wanting to expand the parking lots hugely and directly across the street from Alpine Glen and then the Centennial Glen too.
Yeah, I've seen the plan.
And just by, I'm curious as to what the reason is for expanding that, first of all, because by adding a few extra trails is not going to call for a 5 times size parking lot. And to have it directly across the street from us, it's going to bring in way more people that are going to be sitting in their cars, doing drugs, drinking, casing the houses there. And so crime-wise, that's a major concern for all the adjacent neighborhoods, actually, Oak Valley as well.
Were you at the Paragon HOA meeting last 2 weeks ago?
I missed it. I had some legal stuff in Florida.
So we covered a little bit of that, and I'd be happy to talk to you offline too. That could be more of a specific topic. I'm not going to speak for Parks and Rec. I'm not the guy. What I will tell you is that I've spoken with Parks and Rec. I've spoken with traffic too, because there are issues with stop signs. So I'm familiar with.
That'd be a nightmare.
So I've seen the email chain. Just I'm privy to that, some of that stuff, the knowledge of some of that stuff. I'm not going to speak for them. I don't work for them. What I will say is that with authority, that they are listening, absolutely listening to you guys. I'm not going to tell you what their plans may or may not be. That's not for me to talk about. It's not my plan. But I will absolutely tell you they're listening.
So from the crime side, as that crime increases, because it will if they do what
So I spoke with them about that too. I've offered some suggestions about things that, so one of the things we do is crime prevention as part of the CPO program. We survey new builds in the whole city. If there's a new build or a change to a build, we review that plan. And that's something we would review. And so I've looked at some of that and said,
which
well,
would increase the police presence there, because right now we have one cop that can respond to that area, from what I've been told from the HOA people.
so, like I said, it depends on what's going on there. But first of all, it's a 10-year plan. You already know that. They'll get building in the next 2 years starting that plan. But there are suggestions that I have made to parks to say, hey, are there some lighting options, low-level lighting options? There are some things that we've talked about. Like I said, they are listening, and I'm not want to speak for them because they have their own plans, and we've had those discussions, but I don't want to speak for them. So
Yeah, I was just
Would you
curious
align
as
a
to
little bit?
what the police department, I mean, and I don't expect you to answer what their plans
Sure.
are, but how the police department would respond as that crime will increase.
So we respond with the resources we have on any given day, even right now. And part of what we talked about with parks was say, hey, maybe one of the things that we can do up front when that parking lot opens is to have officers there, maybe even extra duty officers, to patrol that area specifically to tackle those kinds of problems. In addition to the recommendations that we've made to say, hey, this parking this big, is lighting going to be there, are there signs posted, what are the things that you're doing to minimize crime up front, to prevent problems before they get to that end? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's like, I hear all this, and then by adding all these lights, even if it's low lighting stuff, it's like,
Sure.
it's so taken away
Look,
from the area.
I live in north part of town, and after about a few years, they put in John P. Park, huge open space. That became a huge area for people to have fun. And I was like you, I got it. Like I had concerns too, and I know I went to meetings just like you have done, and said, hey, look, there are some things we'd like to see happen, and I'm okay, we're not happening. And they were listening then too, and I am with authority, I'm going to tell you they are listening to what you're talking about. I've seen evidence of
Okay, well, thank you.
that. You're between the lines a little bit? Okay, sorry. That's all I can say
No,
about
that's okay, I just wanted to hear how the crime response was.
it. Sure, we've talked about it. It's been a topic. Sure. What else? It's a lot of time. Yes, sir.
Chuck, I guess I have to leave with you because I'm not District 1. I'm in down District 4 area. And that is my question regarding boundaries. I can see clearly the boundaries of all the districts, but people talk about southeast. And I'm from the southeast. You don't get further southeast than me. I'm right in Drennan Road and Hancock. And it seems to me that when crimes happen, and it happens in the so-called southeast, if it's at a certain area, they highlight that a lot. But then when it goes across airport or something, or next to Platte, well, no, we're not in southeast. And my hopes one day, instead of me going to each meeting, like planning meeting, and they have their maps that says this is what southeast is, and we go to the police department, I'm pretty sure you know what the boundaries are. But Sand Creek is considered southeast as far as we're concerned. But there's a lot more around, like over the airport. If you talk to planning's in the airport is not part of southeast. So I'm just going to keep going around to all these meetings to find out if we get one map that says this is what southeast, northeast, or whatever it is.
Yeah, so that we, and the DC can probably speak to this a little more than I can, but the boundaries that the police abide by are strictly which division occupies or has a presence in that part of town. When I say southeast, I'm thinking Sand Creek Division, right? When I say northwest, I'm thinking Falcon. It's not what you're thinking of sometimes, or anybody else might think of in terms of where the voting districts might be, or the utilities districts, or the school districts might be. It's all overlaps, right? It's about, I get your point, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I'm Woody Longmire.
I would.
Hey.
Yes, ma'am.
I can see there's a lot of demands placed on you guys. What are these people in these community service cars that you see in town?
The green stripes, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're civilian employees. They're not armed, they're not sworn officers, first and foremost. What they do is take a huge load off of patrol by responding to things that aren't emergent, don't require a uniform response. So sometimes they respond to burglaries, and they'll collect evidence, and they do a great job, by the way. They write better reports than me. They can do a lot of the things, traffic control for serious accidents, which back in the day would have taken 4 or 5 cop cars. Maybe 1 cop car is taking the accident, and they have 3 CSRs, excuse me. Oh yeah, right, CSOs are the ones in the car, sorry. CSOs can be there to perform traffic control and do some investigative work for those kinds of accidents. So they are civilian employees, but we've seen that program grow a lot in the last 10 years because they are hugely effective.
Yeah, I see a lot of those cars around.
Yeah, it's they do a lot of work, and they get my things every day.
It's like the drug issue that she was talking about. Is that something that would be more criminal? So people, they couldn't maybe do that.
They can investigate criminal things that aren't in progress.
Oh.
But there's a burglary in progress. If your home is someone's in your house, they're not going to respond. They're not armed.
Oh,
No
yeah.
suspect information. It can't be a suspect applied to it.
Correct. Right.
If I could just add something, Brian, but the folks in those cars, CSOs, how many of them are there?
We have staffing up to 24. Right now, we're in the 20, 21 range.
Okay. They have an academy they go through. It's like abbreviated, it's not the police academy, but it's real training. They have a uniform they wear. They have graduation when they finish the academy. We see some of us on city council attend that. So some of them move on and become police officers. That's probably a good percentage of them do that. So they're a real resource, and really that's the idea, is rather than having a sworn officer at a fender bender or something like that, protecting people from running into that collision, CSOs can cover that kind of thing, a lot of other stuff. So they do a real service.
And do they
for
work
us.
24 hours a day?
No, I don't think so.
Because I was going to say, for me, one of the scary things this time of year with being so dry is all these warming fires, and
Yeah.
I don't, it's, sometimes seems like it's just out of control. When it's gonna start, how you can be ahead of it. Who can see it first, you know what I mean? I don't
Using
know.
fire?
What kind of call is that, Brian, if a citizen
The
saw
911.
homeless, and they have a fire going, and they're worried, hey, this could fire up the,
You're gonna call 911, you probably get 2 responses, us and FD.
okay, so it's 911, it's not a non-emergency.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I vote.
All right.
Maybe us.
Well, yeah, well,
But FD would respond and then they'd indicate whether or not they felt like they needed us.
And I think, I promised Brian, 6 o'clock, but I want to add one thing and then have him and Deputy Chief Edmondson correct me if I'm wrong on this, or just add into it. And the issue, part of the issue for citizens is you see the homeless camps and you're like, why the hell can't anyone ever do anything about this? And so I looked into this because a citizen was contacting me about these folks who were camping on the trail in Monument Valley Park. And I was like, all right, we're gonna fix this because they're camping near the water. So that's like an additional level of violation. You can't do that. And so it was a hot team that it was an email chain. They went out. But if they arrest them, okay, you're camping near the water, I'm arresting you, you're going to jail. So we think, okay, good, they're gonna be locked up for a while. The way our state legislature has passed the laws, within 48 hours, those folks have to be in front of a judge to get a bond hearing, correct? And I've talked to our city attorneys about this, that's why I'm going to tell you what I know. Within 48 hours, and they will get a personal recognizance bond. They'll be released with no money on the table. They're going to get out. So, and but if they're cited, then they have to come to court, whenever that is. Let's say it's a month later. Let's say they no-show the court. They don't show up. So then the police come back out. Let's say they get reported again, and they arrest them again. 48 hours, they have to have another hearing, and they're going to get released on a PR bond, and they're going to be back out again. And they do it again a third time. And I asked the attorneys, I was like, okay, when is it we can hold them in jail because they've missed their court dates so many times? And guess what? That's the way the state law is. They will not be held in jail because they've missed their court hearing 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. So that's one of the frustrations. I mean, I want to solve the problem. I know these guys want to solve the problem. That's not the only solution to homelessness, but part of it is to punish the ones who are camping right on the creeks and making the trails where citizens can't use the trails, or they're scared to use the trails. But, elections have consequences, and our governor and our state legislature have decided it's not fair to keep those people locked up. Is there anything about that that's inaccurate?
No, pretty much spot on.
Dave? And now it looks like I stirred the beehive, and there's more questions, but I don't want to make Brian stay here.
So to be fair, I've dedicated the night to be here, so I'm not at any risk.
Okay.
I'll defer to the DC
Okay.
for time overtime card.
So if we'll do a few more, then we'll go like another 10 minutes, but at 45, if we're not done with the law questions, I'm going to give you a kind of a overview of city council and answer. There's probably a lot of other questions besides law enforcement. Although I've said this and I keep saying it, this is I think it's the #1 thing citizens want out of city government. Before anything else, you want to be safe and have an orderly, disciplined downtown trails where you can enjoy it. But there were more hands going up, so go ahead.
What are you going to do, what does Denver let us do to them if they do show up for court? 48
What
hours
is
and then they're going to be
the
released?
penalty for camping near the creek? Honestly, I don't remember that off the top of my head. The sad part to me is we can't even keep the guy in jail, so he'll be at the court date. I mean, do most of those guys look like, they got their day timer and they're going to be looking at it and make it to court? Yes.
Have you contacted other communities that have? Because I was in LA when the feds told them they had to clear them out, they had to house them for 30 days, they had to be in social services to help them find places.
I don't think
Have
we're going to
you
take...
contacted any other community
I don't think we're gonna take our guidance from LA.
Well, Eugene, Oregon, I know it's left, but they had the problem.
Okay.
Protesters came in town, they refused to leave the city park. They did something I can't remember, and they cleared them out.
Okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. Were there any other questions, especially law enforcement kind of questions for Brian?
Just two quick ones, hopefully quick. Is Colorado Springs a place where a cop can simply stop someone and ask them for ID for no reason, just because they're interested?
No, so yes.
I don't need to go into
Okay.
it, that's fine.
No.
And secondly, are police officers, is it either policy or law here in Colorado Springs that they're required to identify themselves and pass?
Yeah. Yeah, if you ask me for who I am, they'll absolutely tell you who I am.
And you would?
Oh, no, yes, yes. Answer your question is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's not so plain as that. Are you asking from a legal perspective what the law says?
Either law or policy in Colorado Springs. So if a Colorado Springs police officer came up to me and said, hey, I'd like to see your ID. I'm walking home and I've done nothing wrong, nothing illegal. Am I required to show them my ID or am I allowed to proceed on my way?
You don't have to show me your ID.
Right, okay.
That's called a contact.
That was answered. So then the second one was simply just, if I ask a police officer for their name and badge number, are they required to respond? Either
So
policy.
you
or
made contact with them.
Let's say they came up to me.
If they came up to you and they made contact, then yes, we are required to do that.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
It's not logic.
Okay.
Just curious, the illegal immigration, what is the status of illegal immigrants in the Springs and?
Would be the Ritz Hotel.
To be fair, I am not your undocumented citizen immigrant guy. I'm not, that's not my forte.
It's really a federal issue.
Well, I guess,
Well, I mean-
it's like, as far as if it's increasing crime, if the police department has noticed that there's more crime committed by illegal immigrants.
I have seen no information that would say that those people are committing more crimes than proportional to everybody. I haven't seen that. I don't know that. I wouldn't be able to answer that question. Maybe DC could, but I certainly cannot.
But I'll give you the city council answer on that, and is it Sandy? Yeah, Sandy. Denver hung out the shingle as a sanctuary city. Colorado Springs never did that. When, I don't know, was it last year, buses started going to Denver, the county commissioners, city council, the mayor made it clear, you've got what you asked for, don't ask us to pick up your slack, essentially. And from what I see, it's really just newspapers, things like that. It is private organizations, certain, a lot of times it's religious groups that are trying to relocate illegal aliens, assist them, and some will come here through that, but not through city, county.
Right, but Muslims are still left off.
I don't believe that's happening here.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later on, but not aware of that. No citizen has ever brought that to my attention, that that's going on here. Now, again, I have seen it in the paper that, I believe Lutheran Services is one that is assisting and bringing people here. And that's not Brian's lane. That's about all I have on that one. Any other lock them up kind of questions? Yes? One in the back?
Just going to comment on that. I'm a volunteer with Lutheran Refugee Services, and they have documented refugees that they resettle here. They don't work with undocumented.
Okay.
The Ukrainians want that.
Okay.
They will.
Anything else? Because we will have to be out of here at 7 and.
Please take some documentation with you. My card is back at the table. Any materials back there, I'll stay to the end to piece them back up, but
yeah,
if you want it, take it, please.
Okay, now we'll transition to the city council portion of this. So these are the 6 city council districts, right? This is District 1 here. This is Fillmore at the bottom. And this is Academy right here. So it even sticks, actually it's Academy right here. It goes a little bit over Academy, but mostly it's all back that way. Woodman up here. That's District 1. District 2 is up here. You know, I represent District 1. Randy Helms represents District 2. Michelle Tallarico represents District 3 down by the Broadmoor. And she's new. She was just elected about a year ago in, just this April. Just this April. And that's unusual because the reason that happened was because Stephanie Fortune stepped down from city council, and sadly she passed away shortly after that from cancer. The elections for all 6 of us will be coming up, not this coming April, but the one after, so April of 25. Even though Stephanie, or not Stephanie, but Michelle Tallarico just got elected, she has to run for re-election. April of 25. Number 4 is Yolanda Avila. This is that southeast part of the city that we were hearing about. 5 is the center part of town, pretty much, and that is Nancy Henjum. And then 6 is out east, and that is Mike O'Malley there. So that's 6. Does that mean we have 6 city council people? 9. What are the other 3? Right, so then there's 3 at large. Those won't be up for re-election until, 4 years from this April. So whatever that is, 27. Who knows who they are? Alex, you can't play. So that's kind of interesting.
David
Lineweber, yeah. Who thought he might be here tonight, but he's not, and that's okay. So Lineweber.
Crow
Who else?
Iverson.
Lynette Crow Iverson. And what's the other one? Ryan Risley. You win. So there's 9 of us. It's important. And you see we're off cycle. So every 2 years there's going to be an election. This year it really should have just been the 3 at-larges. 2 years from this year will be the 6 districts. 2 years after that, the 3 at-larges. It takes 5 votes to do stuff. So, like, if you're concerned about Blodgett, and let's say you like what the Parks Department passes, then good, or what they approve. And it would be the Parks Board, which is appointed by council. If you like it, good. If you think, boy, that's not what we wanted, then my understanding is it can be appealed to council, but you're going to need 5 votes. That's why it really matters who those people are. Like those 3 at-larges that just got elected, that's 3 votes right there. So when the elections are coming around, it's not just your 1 district person, that matters, that's me, but the other 8 of them are going to have a huge influence. And that's hugely important. Just yesterday, we voted on a zone change, very close to here, Flint Ridge and Academy, if anyone can picture where that is in your head. And I'll go over that here in just a second. We meet, city council meets essentially twice a month on Monday and Tuesday. So the 2nd and the 4th Monday and Tuesday of each month in general is when we meet. December is we only meet once that month. Monday is a work session. Monday, the idea is city council departments present stuff to us, or organizations present stuff to us. Next Monday, it's actually December 11th, in a work session, I've asked for the planning department to come talk to us about the zoning for the downtown area. Right now, it's zoned with no maximum height restriction on buildings. So you may have seen something in paper. And so we're going to look at that. This is my driving this. My idea is to look at, does that make sense? Is that good for Colorado Springs? Is that what the citizens of Colorado Springs want, is no height restriction? Right now, I think tallest building is 254 feet. It's the Wells Fargo building. would it make sense to have a restriction on height? There is everywhere else, you know,
Yes.
in the city. It's just that downtown core, so we're gonna get into that. Now, citizens can't comment during a work session like that. We have citizen comment on those Tuesdays. I almost need a map of the month. But on those Tuesdays, one of the things we do is we have citizen comment. Citizens come and speak for 3 minutes on any topic they want, as long as it's not on the agenda that day. Did I reply to your email, Sandy? I did, right?
You did.
And I had some dates in there, right? I gave you like, this is when we meet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like what I'm hinting at is come and speak to council. Even early, like this. You know, we'll be meeting again against December 11th, and then the work session. The regular session is December 12th. And at that regular session, you could come in there and talk to us about logic. You could come in there and talk to us about law enforcement or whatever it is, you know, homeless near my house. And it's useful, especially if there's an issue, you know, hey, the council's going to be voting on this and within a month or 2 months. Because it starts council realizing, hey, citizens are dialed in on this, they're concerned about it. And that has an impact. So, it sounds like, hey, they only work 4 days a month, right? That Monday, Tuesday. There's a lot of other stuff that happens. As I think you know, City Council also sits as the board of directors of Colorado Springs Utilities. And so I think, honestly, a lot of citizens don't know that. I think it's good. We get to, we represent you over at Utilities also. We learn, you know, who it is, who are the folks over at Utilities, who's the CEO, who's the chief financial officer, who are those people? And I think that's very helpful. I forgot we had a CSU representative here. Yeah, we do, in the back, Christian. So that's another, you know, day. And then there are multiple committees at CSU which we are on. So that's more work that we do for you. I'm also on the Board of Health, the El Paso County Board of Health. I'm also on the PPRTA, that's an organization that kind of funds different road projects. I'm also on PPACG and multiple other committees. So my wife Holly, who's right back there, she can tell you Mr. Dave doesn't get a lot of time off. When I'm home, I'm answering Sandy's emails. Or somebody, or her friends in Peregrine who took my advice. I told them email, and I told them who to email, and they're doing it. But they're also emailing me. So there's a lot of replies to that. Lots of emails, lots of meetings, a lot of stuff, really. There's different levels of involvement, I'll tell you that, on your council, different council men and women. I'm retired. I retired from the military. Holly and I came here back in 1991. I was a junior enlisted guy in the Army. I was in military intelligence. I was a Russian linguist. Went on into Special Forces or the Green Berets. Did that for a while. Then went to PA school through the military. Got commissioned as an officer. Went to Iraq a bunch of times as a PA, taking care of American soldiers and helicopter crews and Iraqis. And then when I retired, I took care of my dad who had Alzheimer's. So if any of you have relatives dealing with that, you know, we've done that. And then went back to work as a PA and worked in a few different clinics, ran a men's health center here in town. Why did I end up running for city council? Part of it is my brother is a police officer out in North Carolina, is where he was. And he was a police officer 28 years, retired recently, and when the George Floyd stuff happened, and I saw city councils, in my opinion, throwing fuel on the fire, making things worse, it just turned out that our councilman was retiring, or he was terming out on night, and so I ran for a seat then. So that was a big part of my motivation. I always kind of want to give back. So that's why I did it. What's been going on at City Council? We got 35 minutes. 2A was a big deal. right? I suspect everybody in here voted, because you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't vote. It would be interesting to have you raise your hand, so I won't do it, on who voted yes and no. That was important, okay? And then HH failed at the state level, right? And it failed big time here in El Paso County. I think that was an important message for the mayor, the state legislature, the governor, I meant to say, state legislature, but also the mayor and city council, because I was the only one saying no on 2A during that whole thing. And it turned out that's where the citizens were no on 2A. Make sure I don't miss the important stuff before I open it up to questions. You know, let me tell you about the zone change, because this is a good example where citizen involvement can make a difference. Before we do that, I do want to reassure Sandy, like the parks thing. It was like, you know, Parks wants to do this, we're doomed, or whatever the sense is, right? So I've been on council now about 3 years. You know, in April it'll be 3 years, and there was a plan that Parks had, and it wasn't necessarily a bad plan, but it was to stop motorized boating on Prospect Lake. It's been a tradition for almost 100 years, and it was going to become strictly like paddleboarding, stuff like that. And they had a whole plan, and really it was a small group of voters, one of whom happened to use an electrician, and he had worked at our house. And so he contacted me, and we started, he got a group of the voters, and they have a program where they help handicapped people. I forgot the exact name of that, but they take them out, what's called water skiing. And so they stress the real positive things that they do on the lake as the voters, the tradition of it. It was a real kind of groundswell of just public, you know, or grassroots desire to maintain this. And it totally turned around. And so we still have voting on that lake. The plan was changed. Parks compromised. That deal was, I mean, now I remember this, is we had to aerate the lake because you didn't get the algae in the lake. So the kind of aeration system that was going to be put in would have said no voting, right? And so, you know, we kind of kept asking questions. Well, what else could we do? Is there another system? Why does it have to be that one? And Parks, the city decided, okay, we're going to go with one that isn't quite as powerful, but it'll still allow voting on the lake. So that was a victory, okay? And a lot of times I think citizens get a sense that, you know, I hate to say how we're doomed. It's just going to happen and we can't stop it. But the Rebecca Marshall back there is with Springs Taxpayers United, and she has also helped out by publicizing stuff. Constitution extension, and there's another example, if you remember that. The city was writing another COS document. It was, what was it? Was it Connect COS? I think that's what that one was. And it was the transportation plan for the city for the future. And part of that was going to be to study extending Constitution Avenue through that Bond neighborhood, past Corpus Christi Church, if you know where that is. And then it would like go over Monument Valley Park, and then you know, connect up with the highway. And the idea was this study would be put in the Connect COS, you know, not an order, but the recommendation to do this study. And the neighborhoods, working with some of us on council, but it was really the impact of the neighborhoods on the final day at a hearing on a Tuesday. And that, you know, we got that pulled out of Connect COS. It's not in there. And Public Works has actually turned the land over to Parks. So there's another one. So I put that in the email, right? Remember reading all that in there? Or maybe I briefly put it in there. I've had some successes. You know, we've had some victories. I had some losses too. I had a couple yesterday. But I had some successes where we've gotten things I think that the citizens really wanted. So what happened yesterday, this is just going to be a pitch to participate when it comes before council, is Flint Ridge and Academy, you know, obviously there's four corners. The northwest corner is currently a office building, right? And it sits there, it's a nice quiet office building, it's closed on the weekends, closes at 5 in the afternoons. So there's some homes that are just back, you know, behind it, across the parking lot. Does anyone live over there? It's really Ridge Lane, I think, is the street. And so a company that makes big gas stations called Quick Trip has requested to get a zone change. You can't have a gas station there now, but they want to put a gas station at that corner. And it was, when something like that's going to happen, they send these little cards to everybody within 1,000 feet. That's currently the plan. And so 16 neighbors have written back, everyone, please no, here's our reasons why. This is, it's 24/7, right? It's going to be open 24/7, 365 days a year. That's a big thing right there. Neighbors were concerned about noise. They're concerned about the homeless could start coming there, and then when they shoo them off the gas station, where are they going to go? They're going to go back across that parking lot to their fences that are on the other end of that parking lot. So yesterday at council, the thing is, now that's quasi-judicial, right? And I think most of you are pre-plugged in, so I think a lot of you already know what that means. Quasi-judicial means city council is going to act as the judges in a hearing. And it's not fair for the judge to go and talk to all the homeowners and hear their side only and form his opinion. And he's already ready to vote no before you start. So I can't, in that situation, I can't go knock on doors and talk to homeowners. They have to write us emails or come and speak on the day of the hearing, which was yesterday. And unfortunately, no one came to speak. They wrote the emails, they did that. I wish some would come. Because in the end, the planning commission had approved it I think there's 9 of them, I can't remember, unanimously, and yesterday on council, there was one no vote, and I was that no vote. So, my point is what you're doing right now, do that when things come before council. Alex in the back at that table, he sends out a newsletter of what's going on with council. And I think there's a way where you can get the agendas so you know what's going to be before council, and you can come and speak. So I'll tell you, I won't do that. Stop there. So,
Tuesday meetings where you can have citizen can comment. Did you say earlier that they cannot comment on what was covered?
They can on Monday, that day, citizens can come and watch, but you can't get up and speak.
Oh, okay. But whether it's on the agenda for the Tuesday meeting or not, it doesn't matter. They can comment on anything.
On Tuesday, if you come there, when we have citizens comment kind of at the beginning, it is for items not on the agenda that day. So if that day we're going to be voting on the budget, Jim Bensberg had to wait until the budget came up. Then he got his chance to speak. But like if you came on the 12th, you can speak about logic, because logic's not on the agenda that day. But if it's, say, the hearing yesterday about that zone change for the gas station, those people, if they had come, they would have to speak when that item was up. They can't talk at the beginning of the day about something that's going to be on the agenda later. Does that make sense?
And there's a nice chat room too, right? You can talk to other people who are viewing the meeting.
I'll tell you what, it's worth coming to at least one city council regular session. It really is. I think you would
I was going to come
be
this
impressed.
past Tuesday, but I'm kind of in the middle of some stuff.
The only final thing I'll point out is, I think this is fair. On city council, there's one councilman or woman who received no donations from developers. Any guesses? That's right. So my voting record, it doesn't mean because someone took a donation, doesn't necessarily mean anything. But just look at the way I vote.
I appreciate the way you vote, thank
I
you very
think
much.
you'll be happy with that.
You're-
I'll say that as we wrap this up, that when I consider things like that zone change yesterday, I look at it from, you have to follow the criteria. There's criteria whether you vote to approve it or not approve it. But I'm considering it from the citizens'
You do a good job.
perspective.
You do. And you're a lone wolf, that's very concerning.
And with that, if there's no other questions, it is 7 o'clock, and Alex told me he does have to get out of here and get home, seriously. So thank you very much for coming out.